I am going to turn this now over to our last two speakers, who are both from the extension services at their land-grant universities. Our first speaker is from NMSU Extension, and our second speaker is from University of Arizona. So our first speaker, Craig Gifford, is the Extension Beef Cattle Specialist from the Department of Extension, Animal Services, and Natural Resources at NMSU. Craig's extension programming focuses on beef cattle management and production in New Mexico, and his research evaluates reproductive performance in range cattle as well as bovine respiratory disease in receiving cattle. Craig, it's yours.
All right. Well, thank you, Sky, and thanks everyone for coming out tonight. It's been a great program, and we're just briefly going to run through some of the resources that are available to our New Mexico cattle ranchers through NMSU, the Cooperative Extension Service. And I did a few screenshots of some of the resources available to you. And probably, you know, the thing that I can't stress enough, one of the biggest strengths or assets of NMSU Cooperative Extension is that we are very fortunate and have a county office in every single county in New Mexico. So I put this screenshot up, and if you don't know where your county office is at, you can see right in the center of the screen, if you can see my little pointer, that locate your county extension office. And this is a great primary resource to contact, and they know all the networks in about anything that the Cooperative Extension Service can do for you. Contact your county office first, and they can get you in the right direction. So we're very fortunate to have that. Secondly, you know, Paul Gutierrez started this New Mexico Drought Resources page, and you can see it's really small, but you can see up in the upper left-hand corner, aces.nmsu.edu/drought/index.html. And I cut some of these links off, but this website that Dr. Gutierrez put together was trying to sort of like the Toby or some of these others, but assemble some New Mexico-centric, if you will, drought tools or drought resources for you. And then there's also links to to all the New Mexico state publications relative to drought in this area. We also have, if you're not aware of this group, it's the Range Improvement Task Force, and is coordinated by Dr. Sam Smallage. They do a really neat job. So you can read a little bit about those in terms of their efforts and what they try or what their mission is. But essentially, they use a science-based approach to sort of mediate, if you will, differences maybe between agencies and ranchers, or if you have a lease and your leaseholder maybe isn't necessarily I guess maybe have some differences in opinions, if you will, in terms of what should happen on this land. They come in with a real science-based approach and really level-headed and kind of help mediate some of these differences. So they're a really good group if you run into some of those situations. They're a great group to contact and have out, and they also provide really good just solicitation for information and advice on stocking rates and that kind of thing. So if you're not aware of them, give Dr. Smallage a call, and he can fill you in more on that. Very quickly, we have just really at our disposal within the animal and range science department on the academic side, and even with our extension specialists, we have a really good group to provide a lot of on-ranch management strategies during drought or even outside of drought. We help line people up and understand how to utilize some of these different commodities, soy hull pellets, maybe, dried distillers grains, that kind of thing, and some of the considerations that we have to have when using these commodities in this region. We do a lot of balancing different rations and evaluating your supplementation strategies, what's your cheapest option, what's your best option, and we can help with that. We just hired and have a new extension range person on board who helps with our range monitoring, and he's really good at that. And he's right now giving out free kits to help you with your range monitoring side of things. So if you have any, that's Dr. Casey Spackman, and I'll have my contact information at the end of this, and I can help put you in touch with him. We can help you with your body condition scoring, which is, of course, is another, one of your first indicators on, if your range conditions are slipping on you a little bit. You'll see it in your cows as well. So we can talk to you about that. And then also any on your value added verification. We have some of these like ACEs High and ACEs High Plus that help verify your vaccine program. And lastly, we are starting, Dr. Casey Spackman and myself, we're starting to enroll ranchers in this future drought resource. I'll have a flyer on the next page. But basically, this is an on-ranch monitoring situation. So we need ranches on board. We're getting those already. We help you establish your transects. We're going to look at forage abundance and species, which I think is important. We're getting some reports, things like Tobosa maybe is taking over a little more from the grandma grass, which, that's an important aspect in your grazing strategies. We'll look at forage quality, things like environmental conditions, and, essentially be a database to alert ranches of declining conditions. And we'll, long term, we hope to make these, really evaluate these long-term transitions in forage species and forage quality, which then impacts forage quality, because then that drives your supplementation strategies, your stocking rates, etc. And also will help you identify, hopefully, trigger points of when to make decisions on, drought conditions or that type of thing. So again, you can get a hold of Dr. Casey Spackman. If you can see him, it's Spackman at nmsu.edu. And of course, my contact is located here. And I know that was a lightning round, Sky, but I hope I didn't go over.
Oh, you're good. Okay, so our next speaker is going to be Ashley Wright, and she is a livestock area agent with the University of Arizona Cooperative Extension. Her programs cover a wide range of topics related to livestock production, but mainly focus on cow-calf producers grazing public lands in Cochise, Pima, and Santa Cruz counties. Ashley is especially interested in beef quality assurance, mineral nutrition for beef cattle, and how producers can alter their production and herd management to remain sustainable during drought. Ashley, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So let's see if I can do as well as Craig did here and get through this lightning round. So I do have a lot of slides, but most of them are screen grabs just to give you an idea of what the tool is going to look like. And you can always reach out to your local county agent for more information on how to use some of these tools if you're interested in how to use them. And my slides are not advancing. Here we go. Oh, come on. There we go. So the first place I want to send you to is cals.arizona.edu/drought and grazing. This is not something I could take any credit at all for. This was created by a number of my colleagues before I even got here. They did a really great job putting together this dashboard that has a ton of drought information on it. So you get this little introduction. The dashboard tab there gives you the updated figures for the drought monitor, as well as several other tools that are updated weekly or monthly, depending on how often they're updated. As you can see, this is the most recent drought monitor for Arizona, put out April 27th. These update themselves. You can always hit that dashboard and take a look at any of those. If you click on tools, there's a few tools here that I want to talk about. That SPI Explorer tool that was mentioned earlier, you'll find that here, as well as My Range Log, more analog logbook generator, a drought view, and then some drought scenario planning tools. So let's dig into those real quick. The SPI Explorer tool is probably my favorite one to play with because I love statistics and numbers. It uses the Prism grids. And what you need to do is you can set your time. You can actually drop a pin, and then it's very important you click on the map and drop the blue pin. And it allows you to really compare apples to apples, because if you're in a 12-inch precip zone and you're 6 inches short on precip, that's a much bigger impact than somebody who lives in a 60-inch precip zone being 6 inches short of rain, right? So this really allows you to compare how much are you truly short based on a standardized precipitation index. And so once you've dropped your pin in the area that you're interested in, it will download that data. You'll hit that download data button, and it'll actually let you take a look. And I downloaded Sonoyta, Arizona, just because I know they're pretty dry this year. You can see that 2020 bar there on the far right end is really low below average. And it gives you a lot of cool information on this one. And then the next one, the precip comparison, lets you look at any time scale you want. So this is actually set for basically our monsoon season, to look at that for every year that we have historical data. And you can see the years where that bar is brown and dropped down below, like the last two, we had really crummy monsoon seasons. So that's a cool way you can move that thing around. You can pick the end month and the time scale you want to look at for any of that historical data and pull that map. And then finally, this is that predictor that was mentioned earlier, where you can see what are the, based on historical data, what is the probability of moving from dry, or very wet to something else, looking at different time periods. So this one is actually looking at, if you look, period 1 is set May, June, July, and period 2 is set July, August, September. So if we look at that bottom left corner down here, where if it's very dry in May, June, July, what is the probability it will stay very dry for July, August, September? And you can see that probability is about 50%, a little less than 50%. What is the probability if it's very dry in May, June, July of it being very wet in July, August, September? That does not happen. That has never historically happened. So this can give you some idea of, if you want to look at a certain period and see if that's going to predict anything for you moving forward. And you can move how big of a time scale you want to look at, if you want to look at 3 months, 6 months, a year, for either one of those two periods. The second tool I want to talk about is the My Range log. So this is a tool that's set up to help you manage those long-term rain gauges, the ones that you're checking every month, every 2 months, every 6 months even, so that you only are inputting data here and there. So these are some of the maps that are, or the gauges that are up that are public. You do not have to make your gauge public. The one I've selected there, I believe, is somewhere on the Santa Rita experimental range. And so I went ahead and pulled their report, and you can see this is what you get on that report. You can see all the little black dots are their observations. So they're only recording that gauge every, looks like about once a month on the first of the month. They're recording that. And the other data is the historical data, showing you where you would need to be considered wet, very wet, or dry. And you can see right now we're looking very dry. But this is just a nice way to track those long-term gauges. If you're looking for a way to do that more analog, this logbook generator does a really great job. It will generate, I generated this actually for my house. And you can see it gives you those same historical data of what would be considered very wet, very dry, those sorts of things. And you can just print this out and manually plot your own gauge if you don't want to mess with the electronic version. The next thing is this drought view. So droughtview.arizona.edu. This is a pretty cool site. It lets you look at greenness, and I know the one on the left looks strangely abnormally green, but that is because most of our vegetation is pretty green. But what I find really interesting is to look at what I've selected on the screen on the right there is the difference from average. And so you can see there that we're looking pretty dry because of that. So that's just a fun tool to play with. And then also, there's a link up there at the top. That publication gives you a lot of really great information on how to actually get a lot more out of this drought view site to be able to use it. And I believe I have another link to that towards the end. The drought scenario planning tool. This is a super fun tool. There's a PDF and an Excel file. It can be a little overwhelming if you're not super into using Excel, but you can actually go in and it uses the fictitious sprinkle ranch. And you can see change things like the pasture rotations, your herd composition, your drought severity, and look at how that's actually going to impact your ranch. So you can actually plug in things like, is there certain periods of time where water may be unavailable in a certain pasture and you will need to stay out of it for that reason? Or are there seasonal use restrictions put in place by the Forest Service? And then you can say this pasture generally produces this much in forage, this is how many days we typically can graze it, set up that grazing rotation, put in a drought scenario and say, what happens if I am in a severe drought for these months? And the program will actually run a little bit and tell you, hey, you need to think about doing some things with this pasture because this is not going to work. It is a little bit in depth. There is a guide along with it that helps walk you through this, but if you're interested in something like this is something that your local county agents can help you walk through. And you can actually go in, if you're really good with Excel, and change it to match some of your ranch conditions so that you can run through this process. Finally, there are a lot of guides and publications listed on that Drought dashboard. If you click on that tab that says guides, you can also go to extension.arizona.edu/pubs and just type in that search bar there, Drought, and you will get quite a few of these, as well as some additional ones that have been published since then. There's some of those selected pub search results, and that includes the one about how to use the Drought view as well. Also, searching things like grazing and cattle yield additional relevant pubs that have been written by those of us who are here or have been here at the University of Arizona. Many of them have implications for drought, even if they are not drought specific. This is the personnel who worked on that dashboard, so thank you to all of them for their hard work. They did a really great job putting that resource together for us. Some of them are not with us anymore, but some of them still are. And finally, extension personnel, we have specialists in natural resources and climate. We have a new livestock specialist joining us soon, Jocelyn Beard. I think her start date is Monday, I believe. So we're super excited about that. And we have agents in natural resources and livestock all around the state. Myself, Ashley Hall, Andrew Brischke, Kim McReynolds, and Nate Brawley. Reach out to your county office if you need anything, and we'll be happy to get in touch with you and help you with your drought planning.